Hi there, it's Liz Yuille from Old Stables Crafts. Thank you very much for joining me again today. I am a UK-based Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I've got a project to share with you which is for the Spot Challenge this week, which is Plant Kindness and Harvest Love. So this is my little gift box with a tag that I've made with the beautiful autumn stamp set and the matching punches, and it's the fancy tag topper punch, and then the paper is from the Gilded Autumn specialty paper, and it's all using one of my least favourite colours, which is Cajun Craze, but actually here, this bit I quite like. But I thought I would show you how I made it and also use one of my other not favourite colours. So I have got my Simply Scored, and the first thing I've got is a piece of Garden Green, as I say, one of my not favourite colours. This is cut just a smidge under 7 inches square, and it's so that we get a nice fit with the lid, and I find it much easier to just cut my card very slightly shorter, and that way, rather than having to, you know, pull it out and, oh, too much faffing. So with any side at the top, we're just going to score every single side at 2 inches. So the box ends up at roughly 3 inches square by 2 inches deep. So it's a reasonable size box. Now the designer series paper, and this is from the Toile Tidings, which was one of the returning favourites in the August-December catalogue. It's on page 34 of your catalogue. Let me grab my catalogue and I can show you. So it's here. It comes in 2 colours. I mean, the colours are 2 colours. So it's Garden Green and Real Red, and it's on a very vanilla base. So I'm using Garden Green for this particular project, but the paper is double-sided with the other colour on the other side. So 6 inches square means you can get 4 out of 1 piece of designer paper, and I'm scoring this time at 1.5 inches. So the lid we score at 1.5, and the base we score at 2. It's a very simple box. It's a standard, what I call Catherine wheel box. So I'm just going to fold my paper. Paper, I don't tend to use my bone folder to burnish. You don't really need it. So if you over burnish it, you can end up tearing your paper. So I've got my snips. It's not going to be easy for you to see. It may be easier on the card, but all I'm going to do is cut up on the rectangle side of the square, but I'm separating the squares and then wedging into the square just a little bit, not too much. So just a little bit more need to come off the top there. There we go. And then I'm Catherine wheeling it. So rather than cutting up into both squares on the same side, I'm doing each one. I'm turning the paper through 90 degrees and cutting up the right-hand square. The reason for this is particularly with the box, it cuts down on the bulk, and I'll show you what I mean with that in a moment. So just one more square to go, but as I say, this is what I would call a Catherine wheel box. So do remember, if you are new to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe. There's a subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner. I'm trying to get to 9,000 subscribers, so any help you can give me would be fantastic. So that's my lid ready to go, and then for my base I am going to use my bone folder to get a nice crisp fold, and again I'm just going to burnish each of the sides. And then hopefully you can see clearer on this. So all I'm going to do is exactly the same. So I'm going to wedge the squares at each bottom right hand corner, turning each time. Now, the reason I'm doing this is these are 2 inches deep, this is 3 inches deep, so if I did this one, then this would be overlapping the card here. It's just not a nice look. You could trim that down, but I think it's just nicer just to Catherine wheel round. And then you get support on all of the sides. There are so many reasons why Catherine wheeling round is the way to go. So the other way isn't wrong, it's just not my preferred method of doing it. Particularly when you've got a box that has this longer seam, for want of a better word. Now, I know what I didn't bring over, and that's the inks, but that's fine. We can worry about those in a moment. And I'm going to be using the same ribbon that I used before, but it will be different. And I will show you what I mean in a moment. So there we have our Catherine wheel base and our Catherine wheel lid. I'm going to use Seal Plus. I keep wanting to say Fast Fuse. It's the equivalent of Fast Fuse. And I'm just going to pop a T onto the flap so that I've got a nice seam down the side here, and then some more adhesive just to make sure, whoops, didn't go quite near enough. That's better. And then the last side. This is a very, very strong adhesive, so if you've got any bits that are sticking out, make sure they flip in, and then all you're doing is lining up the crease line and the cut line so that they are even, and that will get you a nice square box. Now the last one. There we go, so that's our square box. I'll just make sure that the adhesive is properly in place. And there you can see we've got this nice support all the way around, so we haven't got any sides that are less supported than the others. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing with my, except I'm going to do it on the right side, with my, actually what I'm going to do is that, because then I can see where the fold is, which is a much easier thing to follow if you're doing it so that you're on a contrasting colour. Particularly with a busy check pattern like this. Well, it's the buffalo check, isn't it? So, let's go that way, that'll be easier to... Sometimes you need to just get the adhesive to actually start, and doing that off another piece of adhesive is the easiest way. And then again line up the fold with the cut line, and we'll get a nice square box like that, or lid I suppose I should say. And then because we allowed that extra gap with the smaller one, it's a nice lid. So that's our box. So I need garden green and real red. So there we go. And I've got a piece of very vanilla thick Whisper White, and I'm using the Joyful Holly stamp set, and I'm going to use the May Your Season Be Merry and Bright, and then the smaller of the hollies. So I'm going to start with doing all of the garden green, and then I'll come in with the berries. So I'm going to start with the sentiment. Now it's the first time I've used this stamp set, so I'm making sure that there's no film on the stamp. This is 2 inches wide, by the way. Now I just want to make sure I know which way, so that's going to come that way. So if I err my sentiment towards the right, I may be able to tuck my holly down here. Now, let me just grab a piece of scrap paper, also known as a delivery note, because this piece is going to be in full strength, but the leaves that are infilled, this is a 2-step stamp, will be on half strength. So actually I need to come up a wee bit to about there. So that's the outline done. And then for the filler, again, make sure you've got your stamp prepped, because particularly with this, it's a solid image, so you want to make sure that you haven't got any pooling on it. And then I'm going to quickly stamp off, except I've got something nasty on my stamp. That's better. Clean it off. That's better. So stamp off, and then line up your stamp so that you can see through this stamp to this stamp, and just line it up. Much easier when there isn't a camera in the way. Load, aim, fire. And there's our holly leaves, but a slightly lighter shade. And then all we need to do now is, with our real red, now I'm going to just use a little trick. Red will stain, not badly, but will stain photopolymer, so I like to start, particularly when it's a new stamp, with a bit of Versamark, because that gives it puts something between the ink and the stamp. And then you can just come in, and again I'm going to line up my, and again it won't completely stop the staining, but it will reduce it a little bit. Staining is not a problem, it's just aesthetic. The stamp is still just as easy to use, but you see it's not badly stained. If I put that on the Very Vanilla, you can hardly see any stain just by putting a bit of Versamark on first. So that's our tag. Now obviously we need to cut it down and give it a little top. So I'm going to grab my mini chopper and just pop it in, so probably about there. This is one of those, it's not a precise measurement, but that sort of size will be great. I'm just going to start by rounding the corners. Don't need that anymore. So I'm just going to round the corners with my trio punch, and like that, and then bring in the fancy tag topper punch, which is in the annual catalogue, and then just slide this in. As I say, it's 2 inches wide, which is perfect for this. I like to just check that it is properly in. Punch, and then you've got your lovely fancy tag at the top. So all I need to do now is grab my ribbon, which I have here, and this is the gold-edged metallic ribbon, and all I did to get this Cajun Craze was use the dark Cajun Craze blend, but for this I'm going to go Very Vanilla on Very Vanilla. I could use Real Red, because we have Real Red blends, but we don't have a garden green, so I could have gone for a contrast, or I could indeed have made it in Real Red, but as I'm trying to embrace the colours that are not my favourites, I thought I would go with garden green, which is not my favourite green. So let's just trim that down roughly. Oop. Get rid of that. And then all I need to do is take this end and pop it underneath there. And then just get everything slightly squarer in all directions. Turning it over is always a good way to make sure you're doing that. And then tie this in a half knot. Everything will pull together, so don't worry too much. You may want to twist some of the bits of ribbon, but other than that, everything will just pull together. And then just adjust everything again, just to make sure everything's still in the right place. And then this is going to be my static loop. So that is where the tag goes. And by static loop, I mean that's going into a loop straight away, whereas this I'm going to move, so it's the moving loop. And then just tie a nice bow. And there you have your second little gift box. So let's just trim these off. Yep, they're about the right length. So we've got two pretty tags, two pretty boxes using colours that are not my favourite. Now, do go over to my website, which is linked below, and you will find the link to the challenge website there. You'll see other photographs as well. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and do remember, if you've got any questions or comments, you can leave those below the description bar where there is the comments section. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye!